Dustin Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dustin Rider here with my review of Lupinranger vs. Patranger episode 18? Yes, 18. I almost said Kamen Rider Build there at the beginning, and then I forgot the number. I'm just a mess. Anyway, back to doing individual reviews. Most people that replied to, you know, should I do individuals or double them up like I had to do last week, most people wanted to see individual, you know, unless I had to. So I'm going to stick with that for now unless some sort of scheduling thing happens. So yeah, back to individual. But you know, I'll double or triple up or more if like there's a lot of twice I've done that in the past, but you all know that. Anyway, let's talk about this episode and not about my schedule. So this was a good episode. I liked it. Anyway, into review. Now they're doing short reviews. You wanted one episode reviews? No, they're short. No, I'm just kidding. But this was a good episode. I did like it. There was a lot of really neat stuff in it. It was a focused episode on Goodstriker, or not Goodstriker. You know, on Goody. Like that's, you know, what they call them. But it's like a weird focus episode because I'm trying to think of a series. I mean, I guess Goranger kind of had like sentient mecha, so that opened up possibilities there. But like very few series will have a focus episode on like one of the little, I almost called it an auxiliary mech, but it's not. But it was really kind of amusing because it basically focused on the issue of, hey, your allegiance shifting kind of can get us into trouble in battle. And so it's really funny that the different approaches from both teams really reflected the teams. Like Lupin's was basically, you know, we got to convince Goody to not work with the Patrangers anymore and, you know, pick a team. And the Patrangers were like, we'll just steal him, which doesn't really make sense because, like, as soon as he stole him, he could just go right back to the Lupinrangers, you know, unless they did some sort of crazy, like, collar restriction or something. But yeah, so it was interesting to see the different approaches. Then the episode sort of opened up with like it showcasing how it can get them both in trouble. And we had one of those like sheep, like whatever creatures come back, and Destra wanted to help him out for a purpose and gave him a collection piece to help him. And we got a little bit backstory in this episode, which was a cool beat. Like there was some neat stuff in this episode that I found entertaining and interesting in general, but there was also these little bits of backstory like in the middle. Like Destra said, you know, the Lupin collection originally came from our world and humans are just adapting it. Basically, we don't want them using it. I don't know if that was known before. It's definitely possible. It could have been in one of the scans in the show because I'm not very observant. But regardless, it was neat to get that little conversation between Destra and the girl lady monster that makes things bigger, whose name I forget. She has the cool music that pops up when everyone, you know, gets grown bigger. That sounded wrong. Anyway, also we got a little bit of tidbit from Kyogre, or as I like to call him, the butler guy, when they were talking to him about Goody, and they're like, oh yeah, he was the first collection piece basically modified and made sentient by Arsène Lupin, which was really neat because I was kind of curious how that worked, because obviously the collection pieces are important, they have abilities, and I was curious, like, okay, so were the abilities of all these things always to make, you know, the ranger powers and the mecha and all that stuff? Or were they adapted, whatever? Adopted. Yes, they were adopted by Arsène Lupin. So basically we got some confirmation on that he modified them. I don't know how. Like, it seemed like he just whispered to them, like, did you modify? Like, that's how it worked. So maybe we'll get more about that later. But, so yeah, Goodstriker was the first one that he, like, modified, and he, like, wanted it to look after the collection. And that's why, you know, it's his job to look after the collection, and that's why he's on both teams, is because they both have the collection. So it was really cool, not only for Goodstriker, but for a little bit of backstory. It's like more than we found out in a lot of ways than about the Kyuranger powers. Like, one thing that always frustrated me about Kyuranger was that the mythology basis was so interesting to me and I wanted to find out more, but we never really found out specifically stuff, sorry if you can hear a lawnmower, stuff specifically about like the Kyutama themselves. But here we at least get this, and if this is all we get, we've gotten more than we got about Kyuranger in a lot of ways. But I'm definitely hoping we expand on it. Like, we probably won't get an exact how he did it. Maybe a little bit in the neighborhood would be nice. But I'd like to know a little more about that. And like, it makes sense that like, oh, the Lupinranger stuff all looks thiefy. But like, I'm curious if he made it for the Patrangers like that, or somebody made it for the Patrangers to fit in with their police motif, or what. There's some questions there I'd like to get answered, but I like that we got that. So that was a neat bit in the episode. It was also cool at the end because the Patrangers are kind of smart, and they basically set up the Lupinrangers to show up by advertising an exhibition match between the Gangler and Pat Kaiser, and they lured the Lupinrangers out so they could steal Goodstriker. It was like a police op. But then, like, when they go to use it, they're like, haha, we're using it. It kind of made me mad in a way because Kairi and Goodstriker had this kind of funny heart-to-heart on the swings. Like, you saw Goodstriker on the swing. I'm like, I can't take this seriously. And then he's like, yeah, I want to work with you guys today. And then Patrangers like forced him to work with them. Like, he didn't seem overly mad at the end of the day because he's still going to work with both of them, but it just kind of annoyed me a little bit. But yeah, Patrangers like, we're going to use you today. That sounds weird again. And then Lupin Red's like, nope, Chuck Testa, or nope, just Chuck Testa with a realistic mecha mount. And so they basically created Lupin Kaiser with Pat Kaiser arms. It was cool to see, not just because, oh my god, that's what it looks like, because you can just do it with a toy or picture it in your head. But the thing that was cool about it was that you have Lupin Red and then Sango and Nigo in the cockpit, and they're fighting. So like, they would be fighting in the cockpit, which is something cool. You don't get to see that often anyway. But then they would stop and like, oh crap, we have to control this. Or there was one point when Lupin Red used like the claw part of his weapon to control it. And it was just a really cool, unique scene. Like, it was a cool way to show like, hey, they can all combine together, but also show those fight scenes in there, because I liked that it wasn't like, okay, we have to band together to work together for justice. It was more like, oh, we did it, guys. Oh crap, we're supposed to be fighting. So it was amusing and really cool to see at the same time. I have no doubt that at some point throughout the course of the series, whether it be later on in the series or in a movie, we'll see some sort of combination like that. It could be that what we saw today, it could be an opposite, it could be a combination where we have Lupin and Patrangers in the cockpit mixed, maybe even all together. Could be in a movie. Like, we'll definitely see it again. But for like the first time we ever saw something like that, it was really cool because, like I said, you don't see cockpit fighting often, and it made so much sense for the characters, but it was also cool to see them like sort of work together by accident. It was neat. And you know, the resolution at the end was like, okay, Goodstriker, you're going to work with us. He's like, I don't know, you know how it is. And so basically, you know, things are staying the same, but you know, Lupin Rangers are fine with it because they kind of understand him a little bit more. But this was overall a really solid episode. I liked it a lot. I liked the focus on Goody and sort of addressing that, because it sort of opened up a window, not only just how his relationship is between the two different teams, but it gave us a little bit of backstory. We got a little bit of dialogue backstory with Destra, and we got some really neat little mech fights with the infighting there. So I would overall give this episode an 8.5. It was entertaining and a little bit informative, which I liked. Next week looks to be interesting too, and then we're not too far off from Lupin Patern-x. Anyway, until next time, before I comment, subscribe, it's Dawson Ryder, signing out.